Hello, folks. It's Ken David Stewart with the Ken David Stewart Show today for Wednesday morning. Now, I really don't have anything written out or prepared for today. Uh, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at my black Samsung tablet. And I've got a subscription to SoundCloud, which is kind of a music, app. You have to pay for it, unfortunately, but I really like it. And I get to do some of my podcasts on it too. So I like that for that reason too. And I was just checking out like what was in my library today, you know, in my CDs or my albums that I like to listen to. And so this is going to be very off the cuff today. I'm just going to kind of ad lib and say what's ever in my mind. Uh, First one I'm looking at right now is a band most of you won't have heard of unless you're about my age. And they are called the Standells. Now, they were just teenagers at the time. Who knows, maybe 16, 17, and 18. But they had a hit record called Dirty Water way back in 1966. And most people don't believe me, but the Rolling Stones actually played in Winnipeg in 1966. I know because I was at the show. And why I mentioned that is because the Standells were one of, I think they had three warm-up acts, and the Standells were one of them. And actually, one of my favorite periods in music history were the years about 65 to 66, because you had a lot of one-hit wonders, but a lot of garage bands, which would have one or two hits, which were just great. You'd probably never hear from them again. And they're all kids, but teenagers. And the Standells were definitely one of them and one of my favorites. So what else do we have here that I can talk to off the top of my head? Oh, yes. Vince's Eruptum by Blue Cheer. Uh, Possibly one of the first heavy metal bands of all time. And apparently they were managed by a Hell's Angel or a biker. And anyway, they had this huge hit called Summertime Blues, which was a reworking of the Eddie Cochran song. And it had feedback in it and everything. And if you ever, you can find this on the internet. The album's called Vince's Eruptum, and it's by Blue Cheer. And if you like heavy metal music, like these were one of the original guys who, really, really laid out the heavy metal there. Okay, let's see what else is on there. Now, uh, the Monkees music box. This is like a box set collection. And you might be saying, that's just bubblegum music, the Monkees. Well, I'm not afraid to admit that I actually like the Monkees. I watched their TV show when I was a teenager, and I thought their music was pretty darn good. Whether you thought it was bubblegum or not. Now, I know in the beginning the Monkees didn't play their own instruments, and most of their songs were written for them. But let's face it, they came out with some really good hits during that time. Daydream Believer's my favorite, and very underrated band because they later did, to some extent, learn to play their own instruments. Okay, what have we got now? Got Live If You Want It by the Rolling Stones. This is pretty well what it sounded like if you were at the show that I attended in Winnipeg Arena in 1966. In other words, a lot of girls screaming and hard to make out much of the lyrics or music by the Stones. But it was kind of interesting, because now they have, light shows and all these costume things and dancers and all that for concerts. But you know, but right then, all they had was some curtain, and they had these amps which would be considered ridiculously small by today's standards. No background singers, no light shows, no pyrotechnics, no nothing. Just the band playing their songs, and they'd only played it for 25 to 30 minutes, with the girl screaming all the way through the show. But that's the way it was in 1966. And the Stones had one of their greatest creative periods there, I think, mostly due to Brian Jones, to tell you the truth. Oh, yeah. And what else should I comment on today? I see an album by Eric Burdon. Now, Eric Burdon had a group called The Animals, which I think started around 63, 64. If you have a chance to get a hold of any of their greatest hits albums, certainly do so, because they had some classics, Eric Burdon, The Animals. And they had a psychedelic period where they sort of changed their name to Eric Burdon, The New Animals. And that's when you got kind of the 60s psychedelic sound. But the original blues-based numbers were excellent too. Like, who can forget House of the Rising Sun? Eric Burdon, he's so cool. Okay, who else? I'm just flipping around right now. I listen to a lot of different kinds of musics. I'm looking at one called The Essential Alice Cooper. Hey, I liked Alice Cooper. Still do like Alice Cooper. He really brought theater up to the forefront in rock music. And, very interesting about Alice Cooper. I was recently talking to somebody who didn't know that Alice Cooper is a Christian, but he is. Well, his father was a Baptist minister, for all I know, but he became a Christian somewhere around the thing. And he really brought theater. He brought, the stage show, the whole deal. He really originated a lot of that. Okay, let's go on to Johnny Cash, who has a lot of followers in rock music as well. I mean, Johnny Cash had the image, tough dude, dressed in black, had actually spent a night or two in jail, had a bad amphetamine habit, which I think eventually he got over, had this deep voice nobody else could really replicate. He had some great songs like I Walk the Line and Folsom Prison Blues, and, just excellent. And, I still enjoy listening to Johnny Cash to this day. Okay, let's see. Okay, what else do I have? An album called Dylan. It's got a red cover, and it's kind of one of the many, many retrospectives on Bob Dylan. What can I say about Bob Dylan? Like, it hasn't been said before. Like, he was probably the ultimate songwriter of our time. And to go through so many different phases. I remember, what I like most about him is he wasn't afraid of the criticism he would get from his audience or his fans, or some of them. Because when he first went electric, I know it's at 1965, like a Rolling Stone, all that stuff, a lot of his purist folk fans kind of abandoned him and really took their wrath out on him for daring to play an electric guitar and appearing on stage with an electric band. Now, Dylan did a tour in 1966 with members of what later became the band, Robbie Robertson and the crew, and they were heckled and booed and the whole thing. And whenever they did their electric set, because they used to have an acoustic set first, which was just Bob, and the fans were cool with that. But once they started in with the electric stuff, they no longer uh, were Bob Dylan was no longer liked. He was booed. He was heckled. He was called Judas. And so, he took that heckling. And later on, when he had his gospel years, around 79, and he released 3 albums that were mostly of Christian content, while a lot of his fans, showed their wrath again towards Bob Dylan. They were very angry that his concerts were now all spiritual songs and Christian songs, and he wasn't playing the old ones, like his big hits, like Blowing in the Wind, like a Rolling Stone. You could name them. There's thousands of them. But Bob, for a couple of years, he withstood the catcalls and the criticism and all this kind of stuff. So you got to give the guy credit for wanting to change things up a bit. Okay, I don't want to talk too much today. A little tired today, but I could do this another time, just kind of ad-libbing off some of my favorite albums and some of my favorite books. And but I just wish you all good morning today. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're keeping healthy, keeping safe. And if you want to subscribe to the station, I got some cool stuff I usually come up with. And thank you very much for listening. And we'll see you again. So this is Ken David Stewart signing off.